congratulations in Washington, D.C., Archbishop Wilton Gregory to be the U.S. first Black Cardinal.
I think it's a great recognition of the Black Catholic community in the United States. I know Cardinal Wilton Gregory well. He's a stellar guy. He's an incredible guy, a compassionate heart, and a great thinker, and a great leader. Led as the president of the Bishops' Conference, this church in the United States through one of its most difficult and challenging times. And so I think in choosing him to become a cardinal, it says something about him as a person, and also a recognition of the love of the Church and the Holy Father for the Catholic African American community in the United States, particularly at a time where we are once again dealing with the evil and with the sin of racism. In what we have seen unfold in the last several years with the unjust treatment of African Americans at times, right? And how that has erupted in the world around us, saying this is not who we are. We saw it with George Floyd in particular, with a lot of young people taking to the streets in peaceful protest. That still gives me goosebumps. And one Sunday afternoon, I walked with about 100 young Catholic adults. And it was a very diverse group. It wasn't a group of Blacks. It was Black and Hispanic and Asian and Caucasian and Irish and Italian, along with the Ukrainian Archbishop of Philadelphia, my counterpart in the Ukrainian Latin Rite, Eastern Rite Church. And we walked together for over 3 hours through the streets of Philadelphia, along with tens of thousands of others. Mm-hmm. And I think it struck a chord, because there has been a discourse in this country that has not been a good discourse in terms of the way we treat each other and respect each other's dignity with compassion. And somehow when that happened, it struck a chord, and we realized that racism and the hurt and the pain of racism continues to be just under the surface. It's just right under the surface. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we're exploring in the Archdiocese is the establishment of the Archbishop's Commission, an Archbishop's Commission for Racial Healing and Dialogue, to begin to bridge some of these gaps. How do we deal with the sin of racism? We deal with it by getting people to talk to each other and dialogue and listen to each other.
Tell us more about it. What is that commission?
It's in the process of being formed and onboarded. One day I was sitting here in my office, during the whole time of George Floyd, I was sitting here in my office looking down at Center City, watching, hundreds and hundreds of people walking the streets in peaceful protest. And it went on for about 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I was proud of our young adults because they were the ones who were there, actually. Our young adult community in the whole Philadelphia region, they were the ones that were there. But then after 2 weeks, it went away.
Yeah.
And it was out of sight of the media. It was out of the media's view. They went on to something else. And then, eventually the crowds dissipated. I met with a group of African American leaders and heard them and listened to their pain of their history and in the present. And we collectively decided that we needed to continue to work this. Not as a race, but as a marathon. That this is not a race, it's a marathon. That there would be no one program or one thing that you could do that's going to bring about racial healing. But there would be over time many things that you could eventually do, and that a group of people needed to come together around a table and begin to talk about that. So we're now in the process of creating that commission.
And the name of the commission is exactly Commission on?
Commission on Racial Healing and Dialogue.
Okay.
So it's not formed yet. It hasn't been convoked. It's in the preliminary stage of being established. It'll take a couple of months yet to onboard them, meet with them, give them vision.
Does it take a Latino leader or archbishop, like you happen to be Hispanic, to be the convener of all these different races that are broken apart in our society?
Mhm. Does it what?
Do you think that your background as a Hispanic will help to be the convener of these part that are broken apart in our society along racial lines?
I hope so. I would hope so. It's also what it means to be Catholic. You know, the Catholic Church is a community that's very diverse.
Mhm.
That's the nature of the Catholic Church. It's a universal community that takes root and is incarnated in a particular people and culture. So there's no corner of the world that you could go to, you don't find the Catholic Church. You find the Catholic Church speaking a different language and dressing in a different way, right? By their culture, but it's still the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church has a collective history and experience that goes back over 2,000 years of the strengths and the challenges and what it means actually to function in a diverse environment. If there's any institution that has been struggling to do this, has been the Catholic Church because of the nature of its Catholicity.